Every single day, trillions of tiny salty droplets fall from human eyes across the globe. We cry when we are heartbroken. We cry when we are overwhelmed with joy. And sometimes we cry just because we stubbed our toe on the corner of the coffee table. For centuries, philosophers and biologists have looked at these tears and asked a deceptively simple question: why? From an evolutionary standpoint, leaking fluid from your eyes doesn't seem to make much sense. It blurs your vision, it makes you vulnerable, and it signals to everyone around you that you are in a state of distress. But nature never does anything without a reason. Recent breakthroughs in chemical biology have just uncovered something so strange and so unexpected that it is changing everything we thought we knew about human connection. It turns out that human tears are not just a byproduct of sadness. They are a sophisticated chemical delivery system. Scientists have discovered that tears contain a specific chemosignal, a literal chemical message, that has the power to physically reduce aggression and dampen the sensation of pain in other people. This is a discovery that bridges the gap between our emotions and our biology in a way we never imagined possible. Imagine for a second that your emotions have a physical scent, a silent signal that travels through the air to calm the people around you. This isn't science fiction. This is the reality of human biology. We are used to thinking about communication in terms of words, facial expressions, or body language. But this study shows that we are communicating on a molecular level. When we cry, we are releasing a chemical cocktail into the environment that tells the brains of those around us to lower their guard. To understand how truly shocking this is, we have to look at the animal kingdom. We know that many animals use chemosignals to survive. Dogs use scent to mark territory. Ants use pheromones to create trails to food, and many mammals use chemical signals to signal when they are ready to mate. But for a long time, scientists believed that humans had evolved past this. We thought our big brains and complex languages had replaced these primitive chemical signals. We were wrong. The primary focus of this groundbreaking research was on emotional tears. You see, not all tears are created equal. Your eyes actually produce 3 different types of tears. First, you have basal tears. These are the ones constantly in your eyes, keeping them lubricated and protected from dust. Then, you have reflex tears. These show up when you are chopping onions or when a rogue eyelash gets stuck in your eye. But the third kind is the most mysterious: emotional tears. These are the ones that only humans produce in response to intense feelings. Chemical analysis has shown that emotional tears have a completely different makeup than basal or reflex tears. They are thicker, and they contain significantly higher levels of certain hormones and proteins. For years, the theory was that crying was a way for the body to physically wash away stress hormones. The idea was that by crying, you were literally purging tension from your system. While that holds some truth, it didn't explain the social aspect of crying. It didn't explain why we feel a strange, instinctive urge to soften our tone when we see someone else in tears. The researchers decided to put this to the test in a very clever, albeit slightly strange, experiment. They collected tears from female donors who watched sad movies. Now keep in mind, these tears are essentially odorless. You can't walk into a room and smell if someone has been crying. However, just because we can't consciously smell them doesn't mean our brains aren't processing them. The scientists then took these tears and presented them to a group of men. These men were then asked to play a highly competitive game designed to provoke frustration and aggression. What the researchers found was nothing short of miraculous. When the men were exposed to the scent of emotional tears, their levels of aggression dropped by more than 40%. To be clear, they weren't just acting nicer. Their brain activity actually changed. Using functional brain imaging, the scientists watched as the parts of the brain associated with aggression and provocation grew quiet. At the same time, the areas of the brain that process social signals became more active. This suggests that the chemical in the tears was reaching deep into the primitive parts of the brain, bypassing the conscious mind entirely, and flipping a switch from conflict to calm. Now let's talk about the pain aspect of this discovery. While the study primarily focused on social aggression, the biological pathways for aggression and the perception of pain are very closely linked in the human brain. When our brain is flooded with signals to de-escalate, it often triggers the release of natural calming agents. By reducing aggression in a potential adversary, the crier is essentially creating a safer environment. In a very real sense, the chemistries in those tears act as a buffer against the harshness of the world. Think about the implications for early human survival out in the wild. If you were a member of a small tribe thousands of years ago, conflict within the group was a major threat to survival. If two people were on the verge of a physical altercation, the act of one person breaking down into tears could serve as a biological emergency brake. It was a way to say, without words, that the situation has gone too far. The chemicals in those tears would drift toward the aggressor, lowering their drive to strike and potentially preventing a disaster. This discovery also changes how we look at childhood. Why do babies cry so much? Obviously, it is their only way to get attention for food or comfort. But consider this: a baby is incredibly vulnerable. If a caregiver is frustrated or stressed, that baby is at risk. By releasing these chemo signals in their tears, babies might be chemically hardwired to soothe the adults around them, ensuring their own safety by lowering the aggression levels of the people tasked with protecting them. It makes you wonder, what else are we picking up on that we don't realize? We live in a world that is obsessed with digital screens and remote communication. We spend hours texting, emailing, and watching videos. But in doing so, are we missing out on these vital chemical connections? If you aren't in the same room as someone, you aren't breathing in the signals they are sending. You aren't benefiting from the biological peace offering found in a tear. This might explain why online interactions can become so aggressive so quickly. There is no biological feedback loop to tell our brains to settle down. The chemical found in these tears is like a social glue. It reinforces the fact that humans are fundamentally social creatures. We are not meant to be isolated islands. Our very biology is designed to intertwine with the biology of others. This study is a powerful reminder that there is so much about the human experience that we still don't understand. We think we are in total control of our actions and emotions, but underneath the surface, there is a complex sea of chemicals making decisions for us before we even realize it. Scientists are now looking into whether these findings can be used to help people who struggle with aggression or those who have difficulty reading social cues. Could a synthetic version of this tear chemical be used to help calm high-stress environments? It is a fascinating possibility, but it also raises ethical questions about how much we should interfere with our natural biological signals. But let's go deeper into the chemistry. What exactly is this substance? While the specific molecular structure is still being studied in relation to clinical applications, the researchers identified that it most likely acts on the vomeronasal organ, or at least the receptors in our nose that are tuned to pick up on social pheromones. Even though humans have a much weaker sense of smell than a bloodhound, our brains are still highly specialized to detect these invisible messages. When you see a person cry, your eyes tell your brain they are sad. That's the visual cue. But while you are looking at them, your nose is drinking in the chemical cue. These two signals work together to create a massive empathetic response. The visual of the tear tells you this person is hurting, and the chemical of the tear tells your brain, you should be gentle. It is a double hit of evolutionary brilliance. This discovery also sheds light on why we feel a sense of relief after a good cry. We've always heard the phrase, have a good cry, you'll feel better. And while the chemo signals affect others, the act of producing them also triggers a shift in our own internal chemistry. It's like a system reset. The body moves from a state of high alert, sympathetic nervous system activity back into the parasympathetic arrest and digest state. It is also worth noting that this study showed a significant response even when the participants couldn't consciously smell anything. This is the shocking part. Most people think that to be influenced by something, they have to be aware of it. But our biology is constantly working behind the scenes. It's like a quiet software update running in the background of your life, fixing bugs in your social interactions without you ever seeing a progress bar. Now, some of you might be wondering, does this work both ways? Do tears from men have the same effect on women? The researchers are currently looking into this. Initial theories suggest that because evolution is so efficient, it is highly likely that this is a universal human trait, regardless of gender. When we are at our most vulnerable, we produce a chemical shield that asks for peace. This research connects beautifully with the theme of nature's intricate designs. We often look at giant engineering projects, huge dams, or massive terraforming efforts as the pinnacle of complexity. But look at a single tear. It is a masterpiece of natural engineering. It is a liquid that carries salt, water, protein, and a sophisticated message of peace. It is a tiny organic peace treaty that is manufactured by your body in seconds. Think about how this changes the way we view strength. In many cultures, crying is seen as a sign of weakness. We tell people to tough it out, or be a man, or keep a stiff upper lip. But biology tells a different story. Crying isn't a failure of strength. It is a highly evolved survival strategy. It is a tool for social harmony. It is a way to bridge the gap between two people when words fail. If evolution spent millions of years perfecting the chemistry of our tears, then crying is clearly one of our most important features, not a bug in the system. The study also pointed out that this chemical signal doesn't just reduce aggression, it specifically shifts the brain into a more pro-social state. This means it makes us more likely to help, more likely to listen, and more likely to cooperate. In the ancient world, cooperation was the difference between flourishing and fading away. A tribe that could resolve internal conflicts quickly had a massive advantage over one that was constantly fighting. Tears were the lubricant that kept the gears of the tribe turning smoothly. If we look at the larger picture of nature, we see this everywhere. There is a constant balance between competition and cooperation. Predatory animals have their place, but even they have social structures governed by subtle signals. Humans, however, took this to the next level. We developed a way to turn our internal emotional pain into an external signal that physically alters the behavior of those around us. It's almost like a superpower we never knew we had. As we move forward into an era where we understand the brain more than ever before, discoveries like this remind us to stay humble. We are part of the natural world. Even if we live in concrete jungles and spend our days under fluorescent lights, our bodies are still wired for the forest, for the campfire, and for the close-knit community. These chemosignals are a lingering echo of our deep past, reminding us that we are all fundamentally connected. The shocking nature of this study really comes down to the fact that it validates something we have felt intuitively for a long time. We've always known that crying feels bucally different than other physical acts. Now we have the hard data to prove that it is a unique biological event. It's not just watery eyes. It's an active chemical broadcast. I want you to think about the last time you saw someone cry. Maybe it was a friend, a family member, or even a stranger on the bus. You probably felt a little twinge in your chest. You probably felt a sudden urge to be useful, or to at least not be a threat. You might have thought that was just you being a minus person. And while that's true, you should also realize that your brain was likely responding to an invisible chemical signal. You were being programmed by that person's tears to be more compassionate. This discovery opens up so many new avenues for research. For example, how does this affect group dynamics in a workspace? Or how does it factor into the bond between a mother and her child during the first few months of life? There is even interest in how this might affect our perception of pain in medical settings. If a patient is in distress, does their crying actually help the doctor or nurse provide better, more empathetic care on a biological level? It's also fascinating to consider how this affects the person crying. We know that the chemical signal is meant for others, but does the crier also benefit from the reduction in aggression in the room? Absolutely. By lowering the temperature of the social environment, the crier reduces their own stress levels. It's a feedback loop of calm. We often think of nature as being red in tooth and claw, a place of endless struggle. But this study shows that nature also has a profound interest in peace and cooperation. The fact that we have a built-in chemical system to stop people from being aggressive toward us when we are at our most vulnerable is a testament to the sophistication of our evolution. At this point, the researchers are looking to identify the exact molecule responsible for this effect. Once they have a name for it, it will likely become one of the most talked about substances in psychology. But even without the name, the impact is clear. We are walking, talking chemical factories, constantly sending out and receiving messages that we aren't even aware of. This research is a call to be more present with one another. In a world that is becoming increasingly isolated, we need to remember the power of physical presence. We need to remember that there are things happening between us, on a molecular level, that simply cannot happen through a screen. We need to value our vulnerability, not hide it away. Think about the sheer scale of the human population. Every second of every day, someone is crying. And every time that happens, these chemicals are being released into the air. We are constantly bathing in a sea of social signals that are trying to keep us from being too harsh with one another. It's a beautiful thought, isn't it? That underneath all our disagreements and all our global conflicts, our bodies are still trying to find a way to make us get along. The study also touched on the fact that this signal is incredibly potent. The 40% drop in aggression is a massive number in the world of behavioral science. Usually, if a scientist finds a 5 or 10% shift in behavior, it's considered a huge success. 40% is almost unheard of. It shows that the brain is specifically tuned to listen to this message above almost everything else. This brings us back to the title of our exploration today. Why is this study shocking? It's shocking because it suggests that we are much less independent than we think. We like to believe we are the masters of our own ships, making logical decisions based on our thoughts. But the reality is that we are constantly being influenced by the people around us in ways that bypass our logic entirely. If someone's tears can lower your aggression by 40% without you even being aware of it, what else is affecting you? The scent of a forest? The pheromones of a crowd? The chemical signatures of a loved one? We are just beginning to scratch the surface of how our environment and the people in it shape our internal state. For those of us who love nature and the grand scale of biological systems, this is a dream come true. It shows that the human project is just as complex and intricately designed as a coral reef or a vast rainforest. We have these hidden systems of communication that have allowed us to survive and thrive for millennia. So, the next time you feel those tears starting to well up, don't feel ashamed. Don't feel like you are being weak. Realize that your body is engaging in one of its most sophisticated social functions. It is reaching out to the world around you with a powerful chemical message. It is asking for peace, it is asking for empathy, and it is literally changing the brain chemistry of every person in the room to make the world a slightly gentler place for you. Nature doesn't make mistakes. If we have the ability to cry emotional tears, it's because those tears have a vital job to do. They are the guardians of our social cohesion. They are the silent diplomats of the human race. And as we continue to study the incredible chemistry of the human body, who knows what else we will find hidden in plain sight? The world of human biology is just as vast and mysterious as the deep ocean or the far reaches of space. And sometimes, the most groundbreaking discoveries aren't found through a telescope or a deep-sea submersible. Sometimes, they are found in a single salty drop falling from a human eye. This discovery reminds us that our greatest strength as a species isn't our ability to fight or to dominate, but our ability to connect, to empathize, and to heal. It shows that we are hardwired for compassion. Even when we think we are at our breaking point, our bodies are working to bring us back together. As we look toward the future, let's take this knowledge with us. Let's appreciate the complex, invisible tapestry of chemical signals that binds us together. Let's realize that when we see someone in pain, our biology is already stepping in to help us bridge that gap. We just have to be willing to listen to what our brains are being told. The study of human tears and their chemical signals is a relatively new field, and there is so much more to learn. But for now, we can marvel at the fact that we carry within us a natural remedy for aggression and an invisible bridge to empathy. It is one of the many secrets that make being human so incredibly fascinating. We often search for the next big thing in science and technology, looking for innovations that will change the world. But perhaps the most impactful technology is the one we've been carrying around in our tear ducts for millions of years. A simple chemical that can turn down the volume on anger and turn up the volume on understanding. This is the beauty of nature. It finds the most elegant solutions to the most difficult problems. To solve the problem of social conflict and physical pain, it didn't just give us a bigger brain, it gave us a chemical signal that speaks directly to the heart of our neighbor. As we wrap up this deep dive into the shocking reality of human tears, keep this in mind. You are never just an individual. You are a part of a vast, interconnected biological network. Your emotions have a physical reality that reaches out and touches the lives of others. You are more powerful and more connected than you ever dared to imagine. The next time you see a tear, don't just see a sign of sadness, see a masterpiece of evolutionary biology. See a peace offering. See the invisible threads of chemistry that hold our world together. Because in that tiny drop of salt and water lies one of the most profound secrets of what it means to be human. Nature has provided us with the tools to be kind, even when things are at their worst. And that, more than anything else, is truly shocking. We live in a world that often emphasizes our differences, our different beliefs, different backgrounds, and different goals. But on a molecular level, we all speak the same language. We all respond to the same signals. We all share this incredible biological heritage that prioritizes peace and connection. This research doesn't just tell us about tears. It tells us about our shared humanity. When we look at the grand architecture of life on Earth, we see a repeating pattern of systems designed to promote survival through cooperation. From the fungal networks connecting trees in a forest to the chemosignals in a human tear, life is constantly finding ways to support itself. This discovery is a small but vital piece of that puzzle. It makes you wonder if we can reduce aggression by 40% just by being in the presence of someone's tears. What would happen if we structured our whole society around these biological truths? What if we stopped fighting against our nature and started working with it? What if we prioritized the environments that allowed these natural, pro-social signals to flourish? The journey of scientific discovery is often about finding that we are more than the sum of our parts. We aren't just bone, muscle, and skin. We are a living, breathing symphony of chemical reactions, each one fine-tuned by eons of evolution to help us navigate the complexities of life. This study is a perfect example of that. It takes something as common as a tear and reveals it to be a key component in the machinery of human peace. So stay curious about the world around you and the world within you. There is so much more to discover, so many more shocking truths waiting to be uncovered. Our tears are just the beginning. Who knows what other chemical messages are floating through the air right now, waiting for us to understand them? In the end, the most important takeaway from this discovery is a simple one. We are designed to care for each other. It's in our blood, it's in our brains, and it's in our tears. And in a world that can sometimes feel cold and disconnected, that is a truth worth holding on to. Nature has given us everything we need to be there for one another. We just have to let the chemistry do its work. As we continue to explore the mysteries of our world, from the largest nature projects to the smallest molecular signals, we see a consistent theme. Everything is connected. Nothing exists in isolation. Every tear that falls is a message sent out into the world, a message that says, I am here. I am human, and I need you. And thanks to this incredible study, we now know that the world is built to listen. This is the power of science. It takes the things we take for granted and shows us how extraordinary they really are. It turns a moment of sadness into a moment of wonder. It turns a simple physical reaction into a profound biological event. And most importantly, it gives us a new way to see ourselves and each other. So, as you go about your day, remember the silent signals you are sending and receiving. Remember that you are part of a beautiful, complex, and incredibly sophisticated system. And remember that even in our most vulnerable moments, we are carrying the tools for a more peaceful and empathetic world. It's all right there, in a single tear. Nature truly is the greatest engineer, and we are its most remarkable creation.